Welcome to the desk, everybody. Ram Dean alongside RB. Arby's, man, I could go for Arby's right now. Jon Jones was not allowed to have Arby's leading up to his main event fight with OSP. However, Greg Jackson, sitting on the sidelines, coaching his fighter, believed that the powerlifting regimen of Jon Jones led to him being gassed out in this fight with OSP. He said he didn't look like himself. Do you agree with that?
I do not, and I know often we feel like things that we hear a lot are science or are true, and that's just a natural reaction. If you hear something said a lot of times, you think that's so, but go ask strength and conditioning experts, high-level athletics people, kinesiologists, all the top people who research this stuff. There's just no truth to that. Getting bigger and stronger does not make you slower. Now, powerlifters tend to be big, powerful, and slow. And marathon runners tend to be thin, lean, and be able to run long distances. It's because that's what they train. If you train all the stuff you normally train as a fighter and add a little powerlifting, all the things will remain the same, plus some strength. The problem is, it's a very complex concept. It's not one that can just be done in a soundbite. The problem is, if you add that thing, often you have to take something away to do it. So powerlifting does not make you slower and does not make you get tired. But if you omit or insert it instead of some other kind of training, do you get a benefit from one and a loss from the other? So it's a complex idea.
What about the idea that for Jon Jones, he actually had never competed in this new body of his, that he's added mass and he's added strength. Just like Conor McGregor said when he moved up to 170 pounds, he wasn't able to manage his energy properly. What about that philosophy for fighters and their coaches?
Well, for sure. Anytime you change anything in an athlete, in a work environment, or wherever, you take a system and you make a change to it, there will be changes. What you try to do is make very small changes so it's measurable. If our fighter is doing everything identical, plus we changed only this one thing, it rarely is only this one, but if we changed only that one, we can see we had increases here. Did we have decreases there? Do we need to add something else to adapt? This is all very complex. So an easy way to react to it as a coach, as a kickboxing coach or a jiu-jitsu coach, is say, don't do it, because it's hard to manage. It's not simple. Let's go add this, this will happen. There are stories of George St. Pierre at his peak where people would come up, his manager would say, George, got to put on 10 pounds. The fighters are bigger. And then somebody else would say, George, you got to add sprinting. That's what guys are doing. And then someone else would say, George, you got to add Olympic lifting. And I know that John Chainberg, who was managing a lot of that stuff at the time, is like, we won't be able to trace which gives him the improvement and which gives him setbacks. We won't be able to tweak our fighter the way we need to.
Well, you brought up John Chainberg. Recently, we were in Montreal. We heard from some of the best fighters in the world, as well as John Chainberg, about this debate on strength and conditioning opposed to skill development.
It's great that people are doing a lot of the movement stuff, and movement is very big, but I would incorporate it as more a dynamic and active warm-up and then go into an athletic training system. I wouldn't make my training revolved around moving. So I would use the movement as a warm-up or as an active and dynamic warm-up, and then I would even incorporate in some of the actual pauses in my training, but I wouldn't make it the basis of my training.
Fitness is a big part of it, but it's supplemental to skill. I feel like efficiency and being having efficiency in martial arts is having a high skill level. So if you're more efficient, the less gas you need, right? And but at the same time, when you're fighting at the highest level, and guys have it's a tight fight as far as skill goes. Sometimes it matters who's got the bigger gas tank, right?
Overall, I agree with, for us, I think technique is king, Technique is designed to beat all those other things. If you can do the things right, it's designed to beat strength and speed and all that kind of stuff. So technique is first, you have to have a well-rounded game and be technical in every area. But after that, you're looking for little advantages that you can gain over people, just ways to keep your body healthy and feeling good, Personally, I used to be a strength and conditioning coach before I started fighting full-time, and I feel better when I'm doing that kind of workout. Now I don't do it like 4 times a week like I used to. I'm once or twice a week, but and put more time into technique. But I think it varies from person to person.
So Conor came up. He's the biggest thing now in mixed martial arts. He's doing that, so everybody thinks, wow, it's working for him. We got to do that. When George came up, he was doing a lot of the athletic training. Everybody gravitated towards that. When he went to Olympic lifting and gymnastics, people went towards that. it's all a matter of people want to copy the next best great thing, but there's certain things that are established and tried and tested, and you got to use that and use everything else that comes in. If it makes sense and it works and you can shove it into your program, then you use it. So if the movement works in somewhere in your program design, you can plug it in and then you can incorporate it. But if it has no place in your training, there's no use.
Robin, when you look at it, only so many hours in a day. There's so many different martial arts. The idea is to attain perfection. You talk to the best trainers and coaches in the world. That is the goal. However, you have to spread yourself very, very thin in order to acquire all these different skills. When you look at the different philosophies, because a lot of coaches are in conflict. A fighter goes to them, says, I want to be stronger, I want to be faster because I get tired in fights. And other coaches will say, you don't have to worry about those things. We're going to teach you how to fight. You'll be able to manage your energy based on your fighting abilities. Is there a right and a wrong in MMA right now?
Well, I think you have to have a philosophy, and you heard them mention Firas. Firas's philosophy is that skill trumps all. And that is what his young fighters are being developed with. And it really is fascinating to see that, and he believes also that gas is actually skill development as well. Your ability to manage that is a skill development. And it is a fascinating philosophy. And I think, judging by what we heard from Greg Jackson, that he shares that philosophy. What's interesting about it, and nerdy interesting for me, is that we've seen this debate in almost every other sport that's ever come before it. Tiger Woods started lifting weights. There was discussion of how that was going to affect his mobility, his ability to hit balls. This, if you throw a javelin, should you be working the other parts of your body? The S&C experts say if we raise your athleticism, we can make you a better athlete, which will make you a better javelin thrower, golfer, fighter. But some coaches don't necessarily believe that. Stipe Miocic, in my opinion, is a true hybrid athlete. When I'm breaking down his stuff, I'm doing a breakdown on him right now. The combination of not only the skills he's using, but the athletic platform from which it is being expressed is one of the keys to him. This guy could be the heavyweight champion of the world in 2 weeks. If so, was he wrong in building he and his team wrong in building the fighter this way? Or if Verdum wins, Verdum is more of a skill guy. Right. But we know Verdum does some strength and conditioning, so would it be better to do none? This is why this debate is really, really complicated and really, really fascinating.
Well, it is fascinating because, you're hearing a lot of fighters now say, actually, the biggest thing for gains for me in my career is to reel back on things. You're trying to recover, and again, you're in conflict if you're trying to build up your muscle and you're anaerobically trying to get to the best place you've ever been, and then you're also trying to develop certain skills. Again, there's going to be conflict because rest and recovery is also an important, if not one of the most important tools in order for you to become the best fighter you can.
100%, 100. The reason John Chamberg was talking about movement in that clip is because he was mentioning there's always a new trend. Oh, guys are swimming. Oh, they're sprinting. Oh, it's movement training.
They're running underwater with a boulder.
Exactly. There's always a new trend, and then the pendulum swings really, really hard that way. Yes, I think it is accurate for Ross, Greg Jackson, all of these others, and the movement-based thinking that it has gone far too far about strength and athleticism, armoring yourself up, building this super athletic wrestling-based fighter. The way you're going to beat a super athletic wrestling-based fighter who cuts a lot of weight is with flow. You're going to be a flow, nice moving, more skilled, more specific fighting style type of guy. So that'll win. Once that's too much that way, how are we going to beat that guy? We're going to do all of that and get stronger and get faster and get more athletic. So it's a pendulum that is swinging right now. And I think for us, Greg Jackson and others are right to swing, and all the movement guys and the thinking that McGregor and SPG Ireland are doing is move a little bit away from the powerlifting and the extreme strength power explosion
What's interesting is you brought up SPG and TriStar and Greg Jackson's. It seems that they're pure martial arts. They're pure martial arts gyms. The goal is to have no weaknesses in any area. When you look at the gyms that are wrestling based, when you think of wrestlers, American wrestlers, you think of that strength and conditioning and power. Is there room for both?
Absolutely, and that's what Jon Jones is trying to find. He probably got some great gains from the powerlifting, great gains from the true strength and power stuff that he's done. Now for the next 8 weeks, get comfortable, get flowy, get back to expressing yourself as a free martial artist, and Jon Jones is going to look badass in his next fight.
Very exciting. We know the sport of mixed martial arts continues to evolve. That is it for us. Tune in to 5 Rounds every Monday at our new start time at 7 p.m. Eastern as Robin Black and I break down everything that is going on in MMA.